The hub, huh? And he was with Maggie? Maggie Ling is head of systems engineering. The last couple of times she hustled me somewhere, I wound up dying of radiation poisoning within the hour. You believe me now? She shakes her head. Didn't say that. Let's assume you're right, though. After 2 years, however, he managed it, and for whatever reason, Marshall decided to pull Mickey-9 out of the tank. What would he be doing with Maggie Ling? On the bottom level, headed toward the hub? I can feel my face twisting into a scowl. The reactor! Yeah, she says. That seems like the most likely bet, doesn't it? Mucking around inside the antimatter reactor is a prime job for an expendable. We can withstand the neutron flux in there for longer than a drone can. And when we die, we're a hell of a lot easier to replace. Just chuck the old body in the cycler, fire up the bioprinter, and wait a few hours. Of course, I'm not an expendable anymore. I'm retired. Unless I'm not, I guess. Anyway, Nasha says, whatever's going on, it's not really your problem, is it? I've got a lot to say to that. What's my obligation to care about what happens to another instantiation of me? Is that me getting irradiated? Or is it just some other guy who looks like me? What does the ship of Theseus have to say about a damaged hull that gets left behind on an island somewhere and forgotten? But after 5 seconds of opening my mouth, changing my mind, and then closing it again, all I manage to come out with is, what? Think about it, Nasha says. What's the worst-case scenario here? That Maggie Ling just sent a copy of me into the reactor core? Right. So, something needed to get done. And she did it. If she hadn't pulled a new Mickey out of the tank to do it, what would her alternative have been? I know the answer to this one. Nasha stands, then pulls me to my feet and into a kiss. Worst case, she says, is that somebody just got sent into the core. And that somebody wasn't you. I don't know about you, babe, but you know what? I'll take it. So here's a solid fact. Warm Niflheim is a much nicer place than cold Niflheim. It's green and wet and covered with all manner of crawly things. You can even go outside now without wrapping yourself up in 6 layers of thermals. You'll still need a rebreather, but the partial pressure of oxygen is almost 20% higher now than it was when we made landfall, so you won't feel quite so much like you're drowning while you're walking around. On a good day, you can almost imagine that we've found the sort of place that they promised us when we boarded the Drakkar. Here's another solid fact. Warm Niflheim isn't going to last forever. Winter is coming. Mikko Barragan and his minions in physics have spent most of the summer poring over records of the 30 years of observations that were made of Niflheim's sun before the Drakkar boosted out. There were 3 warm spells in that period. The longest lasted 7 years. The shortest was 11 months. The 4 winters that surrounded them ranged from 2 years to 9. The transitions weren't abrupt, and they weren't smooth. They were marked by lengthening oscillations between hot and cold that eventually stabilized into one steady state or the other. The season we're in now went through a half-dozen false starts before it really settled in. The physicists back on Midgard thought what they were seeing was all due to interference from interstellar dust. Cute, right? We haven't been wasting the summer. Hieronymus Marshall is a jackass, but he isn't stupid, and he wants this colony to live. We've been stockpiling food, studying the local fauna to figure out how they survive the winters, building out the dome to accommodate the first round of decanted embryos, releasing engineered algae that are supposed to begin the work of pushing the atmosphere further towards something we can breathe, etc., etc., etc. The problem is that it all takes time, and that's something we don't have an infinite supply of. All the things that keep us alive here take